Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Access Channel Comics, episode number 9, coming right at you live with yours truly, your host, The Banks. And today we're going to be covering a couple of different things in entertainment business. Keep in mind, this show is Access Channel Comics, but it is not only about comics. It is not limited to that. It is about things all around the entertainment industry. Today I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I'm going to talk about something I haven't talked about in a very long time. I mentioned it a couple of times on the show, just a little briefly, and that is actually about professional wrestling. That's right. So I'm going to do a little bit of talking about things that's going on in wrestling and something that is very big for a lot of you wrestling fans that happened last night. Also, I'm going to be touching up a little bit more about the upcoming things up in comics, such as the DC Rebirth event, also X-Men Apocalypse. So let's get ready for the show today. And first off, picking up on WWE, excuse me, World Wrestling Entertainment, as a lot of you know, just give a little brief overview of my background in wrestling. I grew up off the old school of wrestling, the 1980s, which was considered one of the golden ages of wrestling. Back in the day when you had Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant and many others in the WWF back then. Really came around to liking it. Early 90s were cool. Started winding down. You had a lot of the big guns retiring and moving on from the industry. But then, of course, in the 90s when wrestling peaked, a little bit pre-Attitude Era, most certainly Attitude Era, with guys like Stone Cold Steve Austin and the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, Bret the Hitman Hart, of course, The Rock, and a lot of those other guys. Just bringing that up a little bit. That's how my knowledge is of it, just like a lot of you. But now it's not about the past. It's about what's going on now. A huge return last night, something I felt like wrestling really needed. Before I get to that, I feel like wrestling, I've actually been catching it a little bit lately. And I've actually liked what I've seen. WWE is really promoting the new era. I remember back in the day when they promoted the Attitude Era, arguably the greatest era in the history of wrestling. I don't know if it ever become like that again, with the Monday Night Wars with WWF and WCW, Monday Night Raw's War and Monday Night Nitro. You flip them between channels and, back and forth. When you see Sting come, you'll stay on that channel. Of course, if you see Stone Cold come out, you'll stay on that channel. And you had DX and everything. But then I remember years later, Attitude Era was over. They started pumping the Ruthless Aggression Era. That one didn't really fly. It had great caliber, but they really didn't keep pushing the Ruthless Aggression. But now this not the Attitude Era, they call it the new Attitude Era, but there will never be another duplication of the Attitude Era, how that was. They call it the new era, and they really got the talent. I mean, I like the fresh new matchups. I think Shane O'Mac has done a tremendous job coming back in. He really gave wrestling that boost. And I still say it like this. I like Shane McMahon. I'm a longtime fan. But your fans be very happy with Shane until he turns heel on you. That's right. I said it. Shane is going to eventually turn heel. I think it may be a ways away. It may be SummerSlam or a little bit after that. It's what McMahons do. But really, I'm hoping he doesn't, because what Shane is doing now, it's good to have that levity of, I can understand the crookedness and the heel turns and stuff. But it's good to have some relatability of Shane is showing you how it will work in a real world, in a real workplace. And he's making some of the great matchups, some fresh matchups, giving guys who's been working hard new chances. And I really like that. Bringing guys in like the Royal Rumble when AJ Styles showed up. AJ Styles is already one of the greatest of all time. I really wish WWE would recognize these guys' TNA World Heavyweight Championships, because he's won a lot of world titles all around the world. TNA's something I came off watching AJN. Done a great job. Having him lose to Roman Reigns, hey, one time I can understand, but honestly, AJ Styles is a way better wrestler than Roman Reigns. Not to take anything away from Roman. I don't know a lot about Roman Reigns. I have caught him in the last year. I can't say I'm a big overall fan of him, just like with John Cena. I'm not the biggest John Cena fan in the world, but I'm not the smallest either. I do respect John Cena, and I respect where he's come. He's going to be returning pretty soon on Memorial Day. So it's going to be interesting to see how his go. But speaking of returns, last night, one of the most talked about superstars, and I do believe as long as he stays on the right track, he's going to become one of the greatest superstars of all time, and that's Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins made his return back in night at the WWE pay-per-view. And it's been a while since I've seen an ovation, the crowd into it when he arrived. some people may wonder, why is Seth getting so much props? He's a heel. Well, see, we got answers to that years ago. You know, back in the Austin era, before the Austin era began, that night at WrestleMania 13 was like Rocky 4. Remember, they was cheering Drago, but then they was cheering Rocky. That's how there was a Bret Hart that was cheering Bret, but then it was cheering Austin. That is some special moments in wrestling. We've seen in 2002 when Triple H returned, how the crowd got behind him. It's more so out of respect. Fans respect, no matter whether it's a fan favorite to hear where these guys work hard and they come back. And honestly, you can't really hate on Seth too much. Seth is in a way, a total package wrestler. He's been considered the new Shawn Michaels, which there's no new Shawn Michaels. There's no next Shawn Michaels. You can't replace HBK. That's like saying you're the new Michael Jordan, you know. But I can understand what people are saying. But he has a presence. Seth can cut promos. He can wrestle. He's aerial. He's entertaining. Seth has that marketability to be that face of the company. So it's going to be interesting to see. A lot of guys have risen up. Where will Cena fit in when he comes back? You know, John Cena is going to be coming back on Memorial Day. Give Cena his props, whether you love him or hate him, whether you like him or not. John Cena is one of the greatest of all time. He is one of the all-time greats. He is a 15-time World Heavyweight Champion. He's held numerous crowns, numerous titles and everything. He has been considered that poster boy, the face of the company for the last decade. I would say guys like him along with Randy Orton. And that's another guy, Randy Orton, one of my all-time favorites. Where is the Viper at? You know, Orton, I know, has been doing some filming. So some of these guys, let's face it, Randy Orton and John Cena could still go for a while, but these guys are heading towards their latter years, maybe towards the end of their career. Cena has had he's coming off a big injury. I think he has some years left in him, but it's going to be kind of scarce because with the bumps, he doesn't want to go back to that same way and wind up being put on the shelf and forced into retirement. And we've seen some of the all-time greats being done like that. But Seth Rollins is a guy he's coming back off of a very deep injury. But he's young, he's healthy. And Seth, I think what's going to happen with Seth is maybe not right away, or then again, maybe. You know, sometimes they don't officially say, hey, I'm a good guy. I think Seth is going to be a fan favorite eventually. It's going to be interesting to see how they push him against Roman. Roman, they never really said Roman is a heel. I don't think you could give Roman the treatment that you did Cena. That was unique with Cena. And you don't try to duplicate that. Eventually, bottom line is, if Roman Reigns go up against Seth Rollins, which he is, he's going to get booed out of the building. And it's going to be funny because the tables have turned. And Seth is not declared to be a fan favorite or anything. He probably won't even do that. But I think what's going to happen is you're going to notice him less dissing the crowd. That's going to push him in that way of fan favorite. You know, it's guys like Austin back in the day. You know, even Triple H. They never necessarily said they were good guys, fan favorites. Same thing with Edge. Austin, most of all, he was more of a bad ASS, you know, so to speak. So that's how it kind of reminded me with Seth Rollins, you know, at times and everything. So I think his return really culminates a big push. You know, he's someone who will be there full time. Of course, a lot of people will like, you know, when Lesnar return. You know, Brock is going to eventually return, but Brock is more part time now. Like I said, a lot of those guys like, you know, Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar, John Cena. Let's face it, they're getting older. These guys are pushing near 40 now, and they can still go, but they're not getting up and jumping up like these 22-year-old guys anymore, you know. And so, as phenomenal as they are, age catches up with them. Bottom line, you know. But they still got some good years left, and maybe put together some pretty decent pay-per-views, some good pay-per-views. Especially a lot of wrestlers, when they get older, they reserve themselves around to that WrestleMania time, which rightfully so, because that's the biggest show. But we got a while for another WrestleMania, you know, a little less than a year, so we'll see how things go. But me, myself, I'm happy to see Seth Rollins return. I want to see how he's going to fit in. I really don't watch wrestling as much as I used to. I kind of wanted to touch up on it. I do have a lot of wrestling knowledge, most certainly from older wrestling dates from the 80s and 90s and everything like that. I remember a lot of my friends used to get together and watch, you know, the wrestling pay-per-views at one another's houses, the Hooters restaurants. We used to go there and watch them and everything. And so it's interesting to see where it's going to go. So I look very forward to it, especially with Seth Rollins. Now, moving on, in the world of comic books. There's a lot of things that's going on. Great time. Jeff Johns is a guy who's got a very great position with DC Comics. He's been with DC for years. Last week, very happy to hear that he is kind of taking on a Kevin Feige role. Not totally a Kevin Feige role like Kevin Feige does in Marvel, but Jeff Johns is going to have more say-so in the DC filming. It's just like Ben Affleck is going to have some say-so, executive producer. I think these are very good moves. Jeff Johns is going to be controlling the comic side. And, these are some things that's going to definitely need to be done. I really like what Warner Brothers, the move they have made. People can say what they want to say about Warner Brothers. They are arguably the biggest production company of all time. I mean, they've had a lot of successful films through the years, a lot of best pictures. But two of the many things I respect what they did. Months ago, when the Batman v Superman trailers were coming out, I remember that infamous trailer 2, but I still say it's trailer 3 because the Comic-Con trailer really was the trailer 2, and that was a great trailer. Trailer of the year, unlike John Campea in my opinion. But that trailer, when they put Doomsday in it, that marketing team really released too much. But then they released that final awesome trailer when they showed Batman, Alfred telling them, no, why don't I drop you off on the such floor, and Batman came out of the drone, the Batwing, Batjet, whatever you want to call it, and he went in there and wrecked shop and beat those guys down. What that was Warner Brothers letting people know, fans, we are listening to you. We heard the gripes, we understand, we kind of dropped the ball. We're showing too much for Doomsday. Again, Warner Brothers is showing us, we the fans, that they are listening. They made a great move. They didn't panic. You see, this one saying, to me, they're kind of doing what you see in the NFL. You see teams, some of the best teams have won Super Bowls who weren't the best teams. Go back through NFL history. Now, sometimes the reason why some of the best teams have repeated, some of the best teams have come and won the championship, the Super Bowl, because they acknowledge what was going on wrong. And that's very important to do. You don't necessarily come out and say, yeah, we were wrong, I'm sorry, but show it through action. Back in the late 80s, the San Francisco 49ers, team of the 80s in the NFL, in football, had the great Joe Montana, the great Bill Walsh coaching them, Jerry Rice. That year, Super Bowl 23, they won the Super Bowl. What a lot of people don't understand is the 49ers had a rough season that year. They were getting stopped during the season. But Bill Walsh was like, guys, we got to dial it back. We got to own up to our mistakes and everything. They made the Super Bowl, was almost nearly about to lose the Super Bowl. And in Jerry Rice's first Super Bowl, he won MVP. Montana threw that pass to John Taylor, and they won the Super Bowl. The reason why they won the Super Bowl, because the 49ers owned up to the things, the mistakes they made, and learned from them. But you know what? They didn't just say we're going to learn from them for next season. They learned from them right then and there. They won the Super Bowl, and the next year they repeated. Back-to-back world champions. And I feel like in a way that's what Warner Brothers is doing. Different situation. But what is similar is Warner Brothers said, getting these guys involved who are passionate about filmmaking, who are passionate about comics, that's what we do. They're admitting it's time to do that. It's not about catching up to Marvel. I do not care what anyone says. Do not get me wrong. It's great if you're like, man, DC is starting to push numbers. Marvel better watch out. That is great. But it's not about that. Marvel making great films, DC making great films, that's what it's about. Like Henry Cavill said himself, Superman. One comic book movie do well, all of us do well. It's just like that. And I feel like with Zack Snyder, I like Zack Snyder. He's got some great visuals, but guess what? It takes more than that to make a great movie. You can only go off the same visuals over so long. And you can't just ride off the reputation of The Dark Knight Returns. It takes more than that. We need some great stories. DC Comics mythology has had some of the greatest stories in the history. That's what I love with the Rebirth event. They are not starting all the back over. They're picking up with their titles where they have a chance to reach title number 1000 out of Batman and everything. You got Detective Comics. They're saying the words Detective Comics. That's what DC Comics stands for, Detective Comics. They're saying Action Comics. They're bringing all that back. And don't get me wrong, I like the DC 52. A lot of people didn't like the DC 52, especially the first that came around and liked it. Some people still had that mad feelings about it. I really liked it, but guess what? I'm liking this a whole lot more. It's the DC Rebirth. This Batman we're seeing with the new bat suit, and I love the new bat suit because it's another inspirational bat suit. You know, with the bat with the gold trim, and to me it's a head nod to the classic bat suit where he had the bat in the logo. Many of them call it a target. I call it like the bat scene on the chest. It is just all so great. And these are the characters that we grew up off of. This Batman has something to do with the mythology of 1939. This Batman has something to do with the mythology of the Dark Knight Returns and Batman from 1989. Even though some of them was Elseworlds, they have all that. It has something to do with the Dark Knight trilogy and stuff like that. All this is culminated all in one. Everybody's favorite, and that's what I really loved about it. And man, these titles they're announcing, you know, such as, you know, Batman and Batwoman, mentoring a new Bat family in a sense. You know, Tim Drake no longer donning the Red Robin costume. He's actually donning the Robin costume, and it looks beautiful. Not saying the man looks beautiful. I'm just saying the elegance and everything. The new Justice League, all recognizable faces, except Hal Jordan is not right there yet. They may have him return, which that'd be great. You have more of his Simon Badge and Power Rain, female version. They're the two Green Lanterns in the group. It's phenomenal. And that's why I think DC has shined a lot in their comic books. And I think this is going to shine even bigger. And to tone it up and match it up with the animations and the movies, this is going to be beautiful. And I think with Ben Affleck being executive producer on the Justice League Part 1, Jeff Johns not necessarily calling all the shots. It's just that he's got a lot more say-so. And like, guys, this is what we need. Jeff Johns can be like that offensive coordinator in there, you know, or defensive coordinator. He's calling those plays or whatever. He's going to respect and let the director do their job. But he sees something like this isn't really a good fit for these characters. The fans would feel this more. Jeff Johns is going to call those shots, and I love that. This is something that should have been done a long time ago, but I'm not looking at that. I'm happy that it's been done now. That's the thing about it. I'm a huge DC Comics fan. I'm a huge Marvel Comics fan. I like other comic labels, but I will admit DC has always been my top choice of comic books. I grew up off of it, Super Friends, and getting into comics. Sometimes I admit when I was a kid, I didn't really read a lot of the comics. I read them, but not a lot of them. I looked at more of the episodes, but I got more into reading the comics, and I really enjoyed it and stuff. So I'm happy with the direction they're going and all their universes and everything. So that's going to be pretty huge. So I look very forward to seeing where that's going. I would like to see, what are you guys' thoughts? What are your thoughts about where DC Comics is headed, like with the Rebirth? That's about to debut. What do you think about what's going on, you know, in the world with their movies? Do you think this is a good turn for them to turn with this in their movies? You know, with bringing Jeff Johns in to do a lot, having more say-so, Ben Affleck, you know, being executive producer and everything. What do you think they were going to do with Superman when Justice League returns and everything like that? Because one of the many things I definitely do want to see is Superman get him some more movies. I really wanted Man of Steel when it came out in 2013. Man of Steel did have a nice box office run. It definitely, Man of Steel made over $700 million worldwide, close to $800 million, and that's really good. I wanted that movie to be called Man of Tomorrow, but they called it Man of Steel, which is his title. I wish the sequel would have been called Man of Steel, but guess what? Maybe they can do the reverse. If you bring the next Superman movie out, call it Man of Tomorrow, that right there will really hit people. I'm like, what is this about? People are like, what is Man of Tomorrow? People are like, it's Superman. But okay, you know, that title alone catches people. Man of Tomorrow. It's certain things that just catches people. Like when The Dark Knight came out years ago, 2008, the first Batman movie without Batman in the title, he needs no introduction, The Dark Knight. It was just something about that just stood out. You know, hearing a title like that. Same thing with Man of Steel, but Man of Tomorrow, I would love that. Warner Brothers, think about it. And so I just really look forward to that. It's going to be very interesting to see where it goes. Okay, to touch up on just a little bit more stuff. X-Men Apocalypse. X-Men Apocalypse is out this coming Friday for the U.S. to finally see it. Other countries have gotten a chance to see it since last week. But somebody made a lot of sense what they said today. Not really a lot of people talking about X-Men Apocalypse. And it's just strange to me because, don't get me wrong, sometimes some movies kind of die down, the franchise die down. But I think the X-Men franchise deserves a lot more respect than that. They are the franchise, in a way, responsible for bringing movie franchises back. Superman the movie started it all. Batman continued with it and made these movies sophisticated. But when the X-Men came out, you probably only had one good comic book movie, very recent, close to it, that did pretty well, and that was Blade. But a lot of people didn't know that was a Marvel comic movie. But here we are, and I know it's not always about what you've done in the past, about what you do now. We're X-Men Apocalypse. And coming off the heels of X-Men Days of Future Past from 2 years ago, X-Men Days of Future Past, a lot of people had looked forward to it. It did very well at the box office. It's a great movie. A lot of people own it, and everything. I'm definitely glad to have it in my collection. And I may do a review of it one day, my Steelbook edition. I really enjoy it. But a lot of people aren't talking about X-Men Apocalypse. And I'm reserving my judgment until the movie come out. I did catch a little sneak peek of a scene, but I kind of turned away from it because I'd rather wait till I go see the movie. I'm going to go see it either this Friday or Saturday. I'm a huge X-Men fan. I grew up off X-Men. When it came to Marvel, like I said, Captain America was the first Marvel character I was into. Then I was more into the Incredible Hulk. I got into the Incredible Hulk and Spider-Man. Then along came the X-Men. I enjoyed that 80s X-Men cartoon, and most certainly the 90s X-Men cartoon. I enjoyed X-Men Evolution in the 2000s. And then late 2000s, they did Wolverine X-Men, was great. And the movie franchise, I'm still hovering at my number one. It's kind of like Batman and Superman. It's X2, X-Men United, and X-Men Days of Future Past. I love it. I just always feel like X2 really caught the essence of Wolverine. And then you had some other. I love X-Men First Class. Phenomenal picture. The X-Men Days of Future Past, not X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men The Last Stand was a letdown for me, but I really did enjoy it. So now I'm looking at, I didn't enjoy it all that much, especially, it's like not something I can really look at now. And of course Wolverine, X-Men Red, the same thing, but I enjoyed the Wolverine. The Wolverine something I have in my collection. I think about how much even better it could have been at its rated R. And the next Wolverine movie, with the inspirations of Old Man Logan, phenomenal story, by the way. If you ever get a chance to read it. It's going to be kind of based off that, and it's going to be rated R. And, I think with the success of Deadpool, a lot of films aren't going to start doing it just because Deadpool did it. But Deadpool did get that seal of approval. Like, it's okay. It's okay to do a rated R. And don't get me wrong, me, honestly, as a person, I don't condone violence. Hey, I love watching, I admit, UFC and everything like that, but there are some characters, I admit, you have to do rated R for them to turn out right. The Punisher, Deadpool, you got characters like that. When Orion from DC Comics comes to the big screen, Ryan is going to be one of those characters tapping rated R. Batman is even like that sometimes. Lobo's a rated R character. So it's going to be, it's like that with these characters. So anyway, X-Men Apocalypse. Apocalypse is most certainly a threat. One of my favorite villains, but it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. A lot of people have been talking about it. I've been hearing certain things, so what do you guys think? Put your comments at the bottom. If you have seen the movie, please don't put any spoilers or anything, because there are a lot of people who have not seen the movie yet. I feel like by the beginning of next week, it's all fair game. You know what I'm saying? So I do look forward to the movie, but months ago, I was like, man, everybody's talking about Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. Rightfully so. First time we ever seen the two biggest superheroes on the big screen together. I was like, man, everybody's talking about Deadpool. Rightfully so. People are finally going to get to see the Merc with the mouth on the big screen. And it's rated R. The ads are so funny. Everybody's talking about Captain America Civil War. Rightfully so. Marvel has built up a dynasty. It's their 13th film in 8 years. And this is based off the novel Civil War. And so I was even looking at some of the highlights from the Ninja Turtles. A lot of people were looking forward to that. But in Doctor Strange is getting more hype. But X-Men Apocalypse, not a lot of people really talking about it. But maybe sometimes it's one of those franchises, either from 10 years ago, people learned a lesson. Coming off X2 X-Men United, people loved it. But then when they got X-Men Last Stand, it was like, But I don't necessarily think it's that. Sometimes a franchise has been around for a while. It's like that. I know the next X-Men is going to be based in the 90s. And it's going to be interesting to see, will they keep Apocalypse around, or is Mr. Sinister is going to come into this? And I would like to see that. I like to see fresh new takes of villains. And so that's going to be very interesting. Magneto, of course, has been in all the X-Men movies, but he's not really playing the main villain anymore. They may hear back that route later on, But it's going to be interesting to see how they do all this and culminate it. But I look very forward to it. So with that said, coming up this week, we also have the season finales of shows such as The Flash and Arrow. I want to talk about them a little bit later. These are, and DC's Legends Tomorrow's season finale was last week, if I am not mistaken. So a lot of these shows will be returning later in the year when the fall schedule comes up. I know Gotham will more likely return in September, but Flash and Arrow, those shows return in October. Of course, The Walking Dead will return, and that's something I haven't talked a lot about. But of course, God willing, I still have my show going on. I would definitely be talking about The Walking Dead. Of course, that's that unforgettable season finale, which a lot of people got really ticked off by that. But it's a good thing it wasn't ticked off like the Sopranos series finale ticked off. It was just a point a lot of people want to know, who did Negan do in? So it's going to be very interesting to see. I'm just going to be patient and wait. I'm glad my thirst for it has died down in some way a little bit. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happened with that. But a lot of those shows like, The Flash, Arrow, Walking Dead, many of those shows are going to return in October. So I would say my advice, if you really want to watch these shows, if you don't know where to start from, hey, Netflix, you can pick up on Arrow and The Flash. All their episodes leading up. Arrow's up to season 1, 2, and 3 are on Netflix. The Flash season 1 is on Netflix. Gotham season 1 is on Netflix. You can really catch the episodes, and the current ones from this season you can stream on Hulu Plus. That way you can catch up on these episodes. So some very good stuff to catch up on. So that's what I advise you to do if you really want to learn more about these shows and catch up on them and everything. There are a lot of great things going on in the world of entertainment. So hey, streaming on these YouTubes and everything like that, and learn about them. So that's going to do it for today's episode regarding Access Channel Comics, and I appreciate you tuning in. Click the button and subscribe to this channel, if you like this video. And also, spread the word. Also, list your comments at the bottom. And if you got any questions, any comments that you want to say, go check out X-Men Apocalypse this coming Friday in theaters. Enjoy yourself. And hey, you know what I say. At Access Channel Comics, there are many, there are few. But trust me, my friends, there are none like you. Peace.